In the realm of self-development books, there are a few books that stand out among the rest. One of them is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Now, you've definitely seen this book somewhere. Maybe you've read it, maybe you've not. But I will say that it is one of the best. It's one of those books where if somebody hasn't read it, I'm a little bit skeptical of working with them, simply because it indicates that they haven't put in the time to really self-develop. Now, again, it's not necessarily the best book on psychology and self-development, but it is one of the most foundational and one of the most famous books. And it does contain a lot of good ideas. Ideas that you can apply to any number of your lives and that any number of people can begin to apply. But I want to talk about how you can use it as a man to become a highly effective bro, right? You want to build businesses, you want to dominate life, you want to get fit, you want to slay, and this is how you're going to do it. So let's get into it. Number 1 is be proactive. More or less, don't complain. Quit being a whiny bitch. Quit waiting for life to happen to you. Instead, you have to make life happen. You have to look for opportunities, or better yet, you have to create opportunities. You cannot simply wait for people to come along and take pity on you and be like, oh, this man, since he's been waiting, he's been a patient, good little boy, maybe I'll give him a shot. Or some woman, oh, he's a nice guy who's, never takes a risk. Let me give him the pity sex. Never gonna happen, right? And if it does happen, it's gonna be a relationship or an opportunity that comes with a lot of strings that you probably don't want. So be proactive, take initiative, take risks. Again, create the opportunities that you want, shoot the shot, basically. Number 2 is begin with the end in mind. Now, it's up to you. You have to decide what you want in life, what kind of life you want to have. Do you want, the mediocre life where you're in your hometown? Maybe you want that, right? Maybe you really just want to spend time with your parents. And that's fine. You can do that. But you need to be clear about what you want, and then you can design your life around getting it. Same thing. If you want to be shredded, you need to start with that end in mind and work backwards. Really good idea is to begin with the goal and then map it backwards, right? Like if your goal is to bring a girl back to your place after a date, you have to think, what would be the step right before that? Well, I have to get her to come inside. And what would be the step right before that? Well, I have to ask her, or I have to somehow direct her inside, and I have to have a reason for that. And what would be the step before that? Well, she has to have a lot of compliance. She has to feel comfortable with me. What would be the step before that? Well, we have to talk. We have to, have a nice, lively, but carefree conversation where we feel like we get to know each other. We feel like we're having a good time with each other, and work backwards from there. Like how would you even get to that point? Well, you have to go on a date with her. How would you get to that point? Well, you have to meet her and ask her. Things like that. So begin with the end in mind. Know what you want and work backwards from that. Only do things that are helping you get to this end. Don't waste time. And that is the next one. Put first things first. Now, every time you say yes to something, you are saying no to something else. Like if you say yes to going out on the weekend with your friends, hanging out, partying, you are saying no to staying home and studying. You are saying no to any other things you could be doing during that time. So you really need to prioritize what is most important to you. You have your end in mind, and then you're going to have to forego a lot of other things in order to get to that. That's fine. That's life. You can have anything you want in life, but not everything at the same time. So figure out what's most important and do the things that it's going to take to get there. Number 4, and this is probably the most controversial. This is the one that I somewhat disagree with the least. It's be win-win. And generally, as a matter of principle, yes, you should be win-win. You should look for opportunities where you succeed and other people succeed. However, you should avoid people who aren't win-win. Because if you're going into a situation, you're like, I'm looking for the win-win solution, and there's somebody else who's not on that same level, well, they're going to take advantage of you. Plain and simple, you're going to feel burned, you're going to feel very bad about how it went. So you need to recognize people who aren't on this same level and avoid them. Or operate at their level. If they're win-lose or lose-lose, then you need to understand that before you go into the situation and not trying to force a win-win outcome when they're not down for it. So find people who are on this same level, who are on the win-win outcome sort of plane, and then you can work with them really well, knowing that you'll succeed, they'll succeed, everybody will succeed and rise up together. Number 5 is, this is a really important one actually. This is seek first to understand. This is basically have empathy, right? Know exactly what the person you're talking to wants before you start providing them solutions. A lot of times you see this with girls, they'll complain about their day, and as a man you think, oh, they want a solution. They want, here's what you got to do in this situation, and you just tell them that and they're going to implement it. That's not what they want. They want somebody to listen to them oftentimes. The solution for them isn't the solution that you have in mind. The solution is them getting to vent, them feeling heard and understood. So again, when you're talking to somebody, try to figure out, what does this person actually want? Usually it's one of a few things. Usually they want something like validation or recognition. Some people are really into legacy. Some people are just into having fun. They're into having a good time. So figure out what this is. Some people are into status by association, right? If you seem like a high status person, they want to hang out with you because that makes them feel high status. So figure out what the person wants and provide it to them, rather than trying to force them to accept something that they don't necessarily care about. Very important, right? And this will get you very far in life. If you can take a moment and pause and figure out what somebody else wants, and if you can be the source of what they want, then you instantly become more valuable to them. Versus, again, you don't take that moment. You're like, oh, they must want this. They must want, oh, if you're going to be the guy, the one I always find funny is the guys on Twitter who are like, just make money, get the Bugatti and your life will be solved. Women don't really care about money. They like status, oftentimes. They like to have fun, yeah. They like to have a stress-free, carefree existence. And money can provide those sorts of things, but if you're not actually providing those sorts of things and you're just like, I have money, they don't fucking care. So seek first to understand. Figure out what people actually want before you start trying to provide them with things. Very good. Very good point to understand. Next one is synergize. This is basically find people you can work with to combine your efforts to become better, right? I often go to the park and I go there just to walk before I have to be somewhere else. I see this kid there who's constantly practicing boxing, but he doesn't have a coach. So he's sitting there and he's in one spot and he holds his fist out like that. And he's just in one spot. Maybe he's getting off the center line, okay, but he doesn't have anybody to really test him and show him the right way to do things. He needs to synergize. He needs to find somebody else who can at least throw a punch at him in a controlled manner so that he can learn to get off the center line, so that he can learn to move, or just somebody to coach him, to show him how to do things. And he would rapidly improve because he does have dedication. He's there all the time. He has the sort of discipline, but he doesn't have the people to work with to help him improve much, much faster. So this is the notion of synergize, right? A lone wolf will survive on the margins, but they will never succeed at the very top, right? They'll never get to the heights of society just operating alone. You need people to help you get there. Last one is, and this one's super important too, and I talk about this all the time, is sharpen the saw. This is taking care of yourself, right? You have to take the time away from all of this to take care of the basics. Things like sleep, diet, exercise, getting your mind right with meditation or reflection and journaling, those sorts of things. You cannot just blindly do this all the time without taking a break to rest and relax, to recuperate, to make sure your physiological, mental, psychological needs are met, right? So you need to make sure while you're being proactive and you're trying to understand people and you're working with other people in a win-win manner, you also need to take some time off to make sure you are eating correctly, exercising, sleeping well, those sorts of things. So if you can do this, if you can get all this down, then you will be 99 at the top. You will be ahead of 99% of people, right? Because most people aren't doing this. They have massive blind spots because maybe they're not working with somebody, or they're kind of doing what they feel like in the moment. They don't have an end in mind. Maybe they lack initiative, those sorts of things. And if you can do all of these, then you will be far ahead of all other bros. So I hope that helps. You're welcome.